Hey, sports fans, Larry Eder, RunBlogRun, Socially the Distance. Today we have a real treat for you. The folks behind the new Hayward field, the new cathedral to our sport, as I called it, the Notre Dame to track and field. So I hope I've got you guys all pumped up now. Next to me is Todd Van Horne, who recently retired from Nike. He was the creative director. And then next to Todd is Marquesa Figueroa, and then Whitney Ranson, and then Jeff Yrazabal. They're with the SRG architect group, the people who put this amazing stadium together. And I got to tell you, I absolutely love it. First saw it May 7th, and with 300 of my closest friends for the Twilight Meet, and thought it totally rocked. So congratulations on the facility. And what I'd love to get you to do is each one of you talk a little bit about just, here's the first question. What you love about the new Hayward field?
Okay, I'll kick that off. That's probably a pretty easy one. Well, first of all, we have to really thank Phil and Penny Knight for their generosity that allowed this to happen and allowed us to dream big, to really address the needs of the athlete and really kind of push things forward for the next 100 years. I'll start. What I really love the most about Hayward Field is the things that aren't seen on the surface. I really, really love all the details that happen underneath the stands, for the athlete. You've got indoor covered, protected areas. You got, areas you can do a pole vault that's world record heights in an indoor covered area, and 140-meter track inside, locker rooms, weight rooms. So it's truly, it's made for the athlete every single day, not just during event times. And I think that to me is like the most special part. Obviously, it's beautiful to look at, but I think really the guts of the engine is really that this thing was built for the athlete.
Mm-hmm. I'm fascinated with Robert Johnson's got to be one of the happiest guys, around, the coach. And I saw him smiling on the 7th, and I just kind of gave him a thumbs up. And I think, he's dreamed and gone to heaven. Marquesa, what's your favorite part of the whole Hayward field right now?
I mean, to kind of echo Todd, one of my favorite parts are kind of just the hidden revealed elements throughout the space. A lot of people don't know that some of the door handles are the old East Grandstand. And I love that because everywhere you go throughout the entire space, there's little moments of that history and that connection to like what, Hayward Magic is all about. And I mean, even just talking with some of the athletes after this weekend, like it's incredible to kind of hear them say, Hayward's the same. It's a different space. It's a different, building, but that magic and that intimacy like is still there. And I love that just connection that, those cues that we're able to take off of the old, kind of the historic Hayward and bring a lot of those elements in throughout the entire space. So I love that. It's just kind of gives me chills to to see that still there.
Oh, well, and thank you, Marquesa. Whitney, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I do have to echo kind of what Todd and Marquesa have said. Hayward's unique in that it really, thinks about the athlete holistically. So it's a pretty unique facility in that, they're treating athletes from training, recovery, rehab, even elements of research are incorporated into the building. So, Oregon is a competitive program. They're always trying to push their athletes and push the program forward. But having those elements in addition to, a field for competition is pretty unique, all under one roof. And then, Marquesa touched on this a little bit, but I think, from more the fan perspective, Eugene is called Tracktown USA for a reason, right? And they're some of the most diehard fans in the world. And I think, on the design team, everyone involved, from design team to the contractors, we were all very aware of sort of the gravity and the responsibility that we had to kind of preserve some of that Hayward magic. And I think, what's been really exciting is to see how fans really feel that's translated into the new stadium, from proximity to the athletes during the competition to even physical elements of the original Hayward East grandstands that are sort of sprinkled throughout. So it's been fun to see people recognizing that that magic that still exists.
Jeff, your thoughts?
Well, it's tough, so I'm not going to repeat anything because I completely agree. There's big picture things you can't deny with the connections between history, the athletes, and the fans.
Yeah.
But I'll go specific on you to mix it up a little bit. I think the heroic wood structure surrounding that stadium is one of my favorite things about the architecture, beyond some of the bigger concepts of the athlete-centric design. The wood is so symbolic. And Todd, I was thinking, when we toured Stockholm, the Olympic Stadium in Stockholm, that historic wood structure that's been there for so long, just the character of it and the feel, it was incredible. And we started thinking about it back then. It's like, there's wood in the historic East grandstands. There was wood in other phases of the site there at Hayward. It's Oregon. It's the Pacific Northwest. Bill Bowerman had some famous quotes when the West Side was built. The Oregon is wood, wood is Oregon. So it's always been this thread throughout history, and then obviously for the state of Oregon and the Pacific Northwest. So to see now this massive, iconic wood structure that is a nod to that history, but also it's done in this futuristic, bold, sort of more modern way. It's just a perfect nod to the past and a glimpse of the future at the same time.
I recall the first time I went to Stockholm, that one of my buddies took me down in the basement, and I got to see a piece of part of the old track where Pablo Nurmi and Jim Thorpe, you could see their spikes. It was the warm-up area, and to me, it was like so cool and so intimate. And one of the things that I like about the stadium is, as you said, Eugene isn't always 117 degrees. There are days when there's actually rain, here, and Robert has to, Coach Johnson and his crew and his athletes need a good place to train. And you've given them those opportunities. Tell me about the thought process that went into not only making it a place where they could compete well, but also that they could train well. I'm fascinated with that.
Yeah, if I could start there, been dealing with University of Oregon for 20 years and meeting with head coaches for a number of years, and actually head coaches all around the world just with my tenure at Nike. What we had with Robert Johnson's involvement was something that you never had with another head coach. Typically, head coaches will get an update. Here's the plans. Here's what I'm thinking about. Robert Johnson and Jill Steele from the Oregon Track and Field Group were involved with every single meeting that we had. So this stretched out for 4 years, and every single meeting we had, and that was on a cadence of every other week, they were there, they prioritized it, and their involvement with that, I think, really drove a lot of exactly what you said. He wanted something that was, unique and not, typically stadiums sit vacant when there's no events, and he wanted this to be active and alive every single day. He wanted that, sort of that continuation of where Hayward was with the Bowerman building, and now it's just on, it's hyper, just with all the training areas and everything else that can happen through there. So he really wanted every sort of element within Hayward Field to be part of his training zone. You'll see that on the track surface on the concourse where distance runners can run through there, in addition to everything that's happened below the stadium and the air conditioned and heated sort of environments through there. And, we even have a joke that somebody's going to start racing up the steps on the tower and how fast it takes to get to the top as another training area, so there's just those aspects that I think that Robert and Jill really drove through the whole design process and their involvement.
The other thing I'd add to,
yeah, please.
Sorry, I just wanted to add real quick because I think it's important, and this just to give a lot of credit to Todd and other folks that we engaged around storytelling. The training components are undeniable, throughout the entire facility, and then the inspiration for the athletes that surround them in every square foot of the facility, indoor and outdoor. That's unique to have both in one place. There isn't anywhere an athlete can go where they're not inspired by some pretty amazing athletes from the past, athletes, coaches, teams, et cetera. So I think that storytelling, it just goes so beyond just brand design. It's a spirit that's in that place, that you combine that with all of the training places and the technology and all the amenities for the athletes, and it comes alive in that way.
One of the things that I've been impressed about, and I'd love to get your input, is you have images of virtually everybody that I ran against in the 70s, and from Rudy to Alberto to I believe, and I haven't seen it, I think you have Bill and Steve McChesney, and then you also have Jennifer Prandini, who is and this is what I'm fascinated with, is a Puma athlete too. And what I like is that you were able to transcend just the Nike kind of bravado and really allow the story of Oregon to be told. BBC asked me a couple times. I do BBC radio. I do just kind of correspondence stuff for them. And I was talking with one of the producers, and they said, "Well, hey, you finished a couple marathons on the old Hayward Field. You watched every trial since the 80s. Don't you miss old Hayward Field?" And I said, "Yeah, but you can miss it. But I absolutely love the new stadium because I think what you've done, it's a real sanctuary of sport, and I want to kind of spend some time there too." Jeff, I loved what you said about how there's a use for it, and Todd said that too, use for it every day. Marquesa, how did you how were you guys able to look at that architecturally and go, okay, this isn't just going to be a place where they're going to have track meets. This isn't just going to be a place where they're training outdoors. How do we use every bit of space in there? And I'm fascinated from Marquesa and Whitney, if you could add some comments there about the attention to detail is what I really, really like. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I think that concept of, utilizing the surface that's kind of necessary to tell that story. And so I think a big component is the underside of the bowl, that mesh that's there. Mm-hmm. That is one of my favorite kind of branding moments of the stadium. Because one, in a stadium, that's not typical, right? To kind of have that underside be covered. Usually you see all the mechanical and everything kind of running underneath it. And so to have this surface underneath that, for the spectator experience is already really special. But then to add that layer of, Bowerman's sketches and writings and to kind of, as you move throughout that whole concourse level, you get to see kind of different moments. And then as that kind of connects to that wood and that spatial kind of relationship, as you walk throughout the kind of entire concourse, like that to me is really special and really unique that, no other stadium really has. And looking at that from like that detail to be like, okay, here's a surface that let's do something different here, and let's really kind of create a space that, is visually interesting, but also, for the athlete as they're training kind of under that concourse that, is inspirational too. Right. So yeah, there's a lot of kind of like little moments. So that's my favorite, I guess.
All right. Whitney, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Marquesa kind of described the concourse as a training surface, and Todd mentioned this, that that was something that Coach Johnson was really, passionate about, is that every aspect of the stadium needs to be a training surface. We need to utilize every aspect of that. And so much of that, came from collaboration with Coach and Jill. But I think even, when you ask about this stadium being more than just an event day stadium, I think that collaboration extended pretty deep into their team at, Oregon Track and Field. We worked with their equipment manager, their nutritionist. We had several meetings with their, sprint and hurdle coaches, their jumping coaches, all trying to, absorb as much information from them about what can we do to make this a facility that really functions for you beyond just competition days, but really a 365-day a year training facility where every surface is, could be used for some form of training, whether it's running on the concourse or using the even the corridor throughout the practice level, which they've dubbed Lane 10. So I think, that's what was so unique about this project. And the team, was so much bigger than just the people on this screen and just the design team. We really couldn't have done it without the support of their athletics department.
Cool. Todd and Jeff, I know from some of my Nike friends that your group traveled to various stadiums around the world to check them out. Were you there when there was competitions going on? Did you get to appreciate the needs of like what's really going on in the heat of battle, or were you there at just various times of the season? I'm just kind of curious how you approached that.
Yeah, well, there's some of the stadiums. So yeah, we did visit 12 different sites in 9 different days, and it was pretty intensive tours through there. So we weren't able to schedule necessarily when the events were going on to see them and everyone. There's some that we had been to events for in the past. I guess some of our team was, but what we took away from there was not just looking at the structure, but we talked to the event organizers. We also talked to athletes who competed there, and we talked to fans that have been and witnessed amazing things at a lot of these events. So or these stadiums. So what we took away from theirs were these kind of universal sort of premises that made track and field stadiums great. And there was a lot of that was in the existing Hayward, and we wanted to make sure that we maintained that and actually drove that further. For example, like just even proximity to the track. So that's why the right outside of lane 9, right at track level is the first level of seating. And so at a victory lap, it's the proximity of the athlete to the fan, and the fan to the athlete drives them both. It brings excitement for them. So we weren't necessarily able to see a lot of things, but we got into a lot of the bowels and the rooftops and everything else that made these stadiums great, just from those sort of private tours as well.
Cool. Jeff?
Yeah, I think that's what we definitely took away the most were some of those conversations we had with the groups Todd mentioned. It's and they all challenged us because it's interesting. We weren't able to see events, during that trip, but they did, give us a lot of insight, a lot of challenges. But so there's that side, and also because Hayward Field and that site is the global track community knows Hayward, and probably 100% of the people we talked to from all roles of the stadiums we visited had all been to Hayward. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting. We were learning about the facilities we were touring, but also we were learning about people's experiences at Hayward from around the world at the same time. And that was powerful. Also a little intimidating because they all said, we'll see you at the World Championships and we'll see how you did.
No stress, right?
No pressure there. But that was really unique and inspiring to hear a story. We had heard so much, obviously, with our group, with the University of Oregon and, with the region, in the Pacific Northwest, but to hear globally stories, about people visiting Hayward, you really start making links between, what are the special elements of that site.
A question. So the Olympic trials, this is a very strange Olympic trials that just finished up. in 1980, when they had the Olympic trials, we didn't have an Olympics because President Carter had demanded athletes boycott, but it was still a pretty amazing event. And this was an amazing event, even as Oregon's starting to open up, and we name our Olympic team. And I kind of see it as the shakedown cruise for Hayward. Will you get input from the people who were dealing with the day-to-day things in there about what's working, if there's things that need to be revised? And I ask this because not with any agenda, but I'm fascinated with the process. I mean, I think the place is absolutely beautiful. I don't know what you do to prepare for 11 degree temperature day. I know that in Doha, when we were there for the World Champs, one of the Minister of Sport, in one of the pitch meetings 4 years before, said that they were going to have helicopters flying over with these things to cool the stadium down. That cost $500,000 a day. Now, I know Phil and Penny are been quite generous. I don't see those kind of things, and I don't think that's needed. But I'm just curious: are there shakedown things that you have to learn from a facility being used? And you go, okay, maybe we can tweak this here. And is that how an architectural group will work? I thought the facility was fantastic. And people seem to, everything from the seats, people really liked that the seats were comfortable, which is a big deal when you're watching track for 6 hours. But will you get input from the management? How do those things work?
Yeah. So definitely we've got the people who've been part of the process, where the facilities group from the university, Devin Shea, et cetera, that manages the facility and runs all the behind the scenes operations. There's things that, obviously you pressure test everything when you try to unveil it, but when you get, thousands and thousands of people, you show things that are like, we should have done this, or we can still do this. So there's still evolving work that's going to happen, and literally a schedule for that. So it's kind of planned as like, here's our learnings from this event. Here's what we need to do. And there's more surprises that are still going to, evolve into the next, until we get to the Worlds, because that'll be the biggest event that we're gearing for. But there's a lot we learned from this, and there's a lot we'll continue to learn and fix and tweak and just continue to make better.
Track that you, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was just going to add, and even after the first couple meets that they had this year, we already kind of got some calls and be like, hey, some of this, even just from an operation of like power and data standpoints, like, we kind of had to tweak some of that to just make sure things were working really well. And so I think that's what's great about our job, is that we get to kind of keep getting involved and like being a part of it even after it's built. And because we all, love the project. And so kind of making sure that it's running the way it needs to be. But we had numerous conversations and even in prep for the Worlds. And so, where the broadcast, trucks, where's the temp seating and all of that. So that was all a part of the process too, like back in 2017, 2018. And so those kind of conversations of what happens at the larger events were definitely kind of also part of the design. And it was different because you don't really necessarily see it, but it was great kind of just this past weekend, the trials, like the camera rail, and the meter board, the kind of ribbon board that was around. That was really great to see, kind of that added to the stadium, and knowing that, okay, there was a couple conversations about that, like we have the power and data for that. And so I think that's what's really cool too, to kind of see some of those, conversations come to life.
And that's, if I may, that's what's so good about the SRG group is, this isn't hey, we've done our job, the building's done, and we walk away. They're deeply passionate and involved and just want it to be better and better. And I think that's what's so amazing is, yeah, there's no detail that they won't think about that will, like, okay, how do we get this? We saw this happen. We didn't expect this, or here's how the event coordinators did this in this VIP area out on the South Concourse and how they did that. So you just learn how people use something. I mean, you always envision what you think they could do, and you had conversations with them, but then in reality, they come in and say, hey, our event people want to do it this way. And you're like, okay, so you kind of learn from that, and you can tweak a lot of the ability for a bigger event. And as we get into the Worlds, it's going to be great, and hope the Olympic trials stay in Eugene forever and ever. And it's kind of a fun place to be able to fine tune and make great for the next 100 years.
That process just. Oh, sorry, I keep cutting you off. My bad.
Don't worry about it. No, it's good.
I was going to say that process, because it's a big passion of ours. We're committed, and obviously Todd, is a role model for us in that way too. I mean, everybody, we're going to stay committed forever. And it was great seeing our team. We had 10 SRGers, and we got to see Todd over the weekend too. All there, experiencing the trials the last 3 days of the event. And it was great sitting, having a meal with fans surrounding you. We started that process at the event. So we were talking with fans and asking about what they liked about the stadium. But we challenged them, said, tell us, Coach Johnson always does this, and I love this about him. He's like, tell us what we missed,
Yeah.
And there were some interesting ideas that came up. The one that I remember from yesterday was I had a gentleman tell me that we should have put cell phone charging on every armrest throughout the stadium. That was an interesting idea. But no, it's important. It's important for us to really ask those questions, because there will be things that are missed, and so you stay committed, and we'll continue to make it better. And that's what's so great about University of Oregon. That's their culture and expectation, and that's what's so great about working with them.
They had the media, the written media, up on the very top of the stadium with the TV crews for the last 10 days, and so that's where I was, and it's where I actually choose to be in every stadium. I hate being in the media box. I like to go up top so I can see everything. So I appreciate the workout every day. The 100 steps. And the guys were teasing about, hey, Larry, you're getting your 100 steps in, plus your 3 miles. So no, it's absolutely, I think it's glorious. The track, talk to me a little bit about that. Did you work with the architects on the track to make sure that because what it reminds me of is the best indoor facilities that I go to. So like there's facilities where, and Todd alluded to this before, the track is so close to the people. That's what gives you the intimacy of an indoor facility. And so you've got this outdoor facility that has this combo feel. And those are the kind of things that, as a track geek, I'm fascinated with. And as the people who will be filling that place up next year for the world champs, there'll be 25,000 people a day from 214 countries, and there'll be athletes from 214 countries competing there. That's a huge responsibility. How did you all deal with it without getting anxiety disorders? And because there had to be pressure. I mean, I just watched the media pressure, and I thought some of the stuff about it was unfair, and especially in the social media, because you can never see until I like to withhold judgment until I get in there and I can walk it and see it and feel it. And I think your job wasn't to redo the old Hayward field. It was to do something that respected that legacy but built on it. And I think you accomplished that. What are your thoughts there?
I could maybe start, because this is we did have anxiety disorders. They're still lingering. Just first of all, but no, the way that you deal with that, because there's there's gravity, to every decision. And what isn't, we were talking about this actually together as a team, what's not talked about very much is the speed that this team worked in as well. I think what was accomplished in such a short amount of time, when you look at how other stadiums are built and the length of time, for design and construction, just added to that pressure, right? But I guess my answer to it would be, and this is, just how the culture of the whole team, from architects to Todd to Gallagher, which is a brand designer that worked closely with Todd, coaches, our client, it's a team sport, design and construction. Sure. And so, with all of those decisions that are, very stressful, knowing that you could always bring the right experts to the table, because none of us know everything, right? Yeah. And so just having that network of people that were working so closely together that brought so many diverse perspectives, either from history of the site or technology, or, like you mentioned, the track surface, knowing that you have Bynum right there, alongside the contractor, Hoffman, with coach giving us the criteria, and us, like you say, talking about how do we connect the fan experience to it. That's really where it starts to work well, and where you can, know that you're making the best possible decisions you can as a team, is, because you're working well and listening to each other, versus one of us knows all of the answers, which is just never the right approach. So that having that group accessible and all working so tightly together from day one is what made that possible.
That's cool. Well, just for transparency's sake, I work with the American Sports Builders Association, and I give the award for the fastest track in the world each year. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys, I think, in the mix. You guys have done some tremendous things. Let's talk a little bit more about behind the scenes. So I have worked with Nike in one way or another since about 1983. I was at Runner's World back then. But there was a name that used to come up in the old days, John Slusher Sr. And in doing some of my homework, I know that John was involved with Outson Stadium. And I did a piece about 3 years ago when I heard that John got involved with this one, because my thought process was that Mr. Knight wanted stuff done, and he wanted it done on time, and he needed to get John involved to my impression of Mr. Slusher is that he has this spirit that encourages people to get things done in a timely manner. When Phil, the other day, Phil did something on NBC, and he gave Rudy Chapo, one of the guys I used to run against, a little bit of credit. And Rudy, obviously, people who know about Nike, Rudy's been involved for a long, long time. And John Slusher Sr., because John's son, obviously, is the sports marketing guy. What was John Slusher's role? Was it more kind of to encourage you guys, hey, whatever you need, we're going to get this thing done, we got to get it on time? Is that a correct, Todd, way to approach it?
Well, we refer to him as Howard Slusher. So I don't know if that's if his official name is John Seeker, but Howard Slusher is oh gosh, he's kind of he'd be one of those people that would be on a commercial, the most interesting man you've met in the world. Okay, he's got not only a vision for architecture and a vision for sports and a history with even with Phil Knight, and I think that there was a lot of trust there that, when Phil gives Howard $1, Howard will spend $1 and get $1.25 of a work out of it. So I think that there's you're right. Howard is probably a great project manager. He knows what's important for the athlete. He stretches things this way. He challenges the architects. He certainly challenges everybody in the room when he comes off, to our weekly meetings. And then, I think the results are better because of his involvement and constant challenging, and there's no detail too small, and there's nothing big to try. And so he's just one of those kind of amazing sort of connections with Phil that just make this great, make the stadium fast, make it unbelievable, make it iconic. And that's, kind of Howard continues to challenge everybody to make sure that those goals were set within that.
So you had Howard kind of there embodying what Mr. Knight and Penny wanted. Can I ask, it seems to me, just as an observer, and I've never, I've been within 100 feet of Mr. Knight, but never really talked to him about anything like this. Did he give you like, hey, this is what I want done? Or did he say, we want a legacy, you guys do it. You're the architects, you're the creative people, do what you do best?
Yeah, I think it's probably best described as Phil would even say this in his Shoe Dog book. He goes, don't tell somebody how to do their job. Give them the vision and let them go and surprise you with the results. And I really think that's basically what he did. We had a couple meetings with him that were reviewing designs, and he basically didn't tell you how to do anything. He was just like, he just sort of raised your level of your goals about what you could do. And, I think it's, credence to him. He just lets people, hey, I want it amazing. I want it iconic. I want it, one of the most beautiful stadiums in the world. He's not going to tell you how to do it, but you present him ideas and he's like, wow, that sounds great. Or, just kind of like, it was, So I think you're right. There's vision that came from Phil. There's a lot of vision that came from Howard Schletcher through that. And then, like Jeff said, I love that this was a team. It was just a team sport. And, even the Hoffman construction people would be like, well, if we did it this way, or if we did this, and, you kind of, you take the best of everybody's talents and bring it together. There's another piece I want to mention too, is that's even the involvement with the community. And I know we talked about involvement with the other expertise. World Athletics came and toured and gave us feedback in the construction process. Mike Riley of Tracktown USA was deeply involved with what was going on, et cetera, within our meetings. But even the local artists, we had mural artists that came in, and we kind of collaborated with them to do some of the amazing murals. And those were all local artists or even University alumni. So you have this personal connection where, you're sitting down with the writer that helped do a lot of the copy, and he's from Coos Bay. And he's like, you don't need to explain who Prefontaine is to me. You don't need to explain the importance of Oregon track and field. And they just, give their passion to it. And I think that's probably an indication, like Phil is like, you bring the right team together, or Jeff said, you bring the right team together, and everybody brings their passion to it. That just ultimately makes the project bigger and better than anybody can sort of envision, any one person can envision. And I think that's what Phil does best. He's like, let's do this, and you bring the right team together and lets people do their jobs.
You survived 40 minutes with me. I just had my cat on 10 minutes. And so here is the question for each one of you. Okay. I want each one of you, Todd, Marquesa, Whitney, and Jeff, to give me something that I need to go back to the stadium and look at that you think is totally cool. Okay. Now I've walked around it 3 or 4 times. What I really want to do is like spend 3 or 4 hours just walking everywhere, because that's how I get to see. I'm serious about walking in every bathroom, seeing the murals, seeing the pictures and stuff, because those are the things that my readers will go, oh yeah, Larry, that's totally cool. So in knowing the stadium the way you four do, each one of you give me something that you think is kind of cool, but it's not something that we're immediately going to be drawn to. And so normally when I'm with an athlete, just so you know what I do with them, so you guys are really lucky. I get athletes, I give them the names of 5 athletes, and I tell them they have 5 words to describe it. and they look at me like, and the first one that kind of scares them a little bit. And Mike's the one who actually came up with this, so you can blame him. I did it one time with, I think, Clayton Murphy, the guy who won the 800. We started with Clayton back a year ago. And I said, okay, who's this guy, this? And he was like really on it. And so I'm not giving you a 5-word association thing, but give me something that you love about the stadium, or that you think that, yeah, this is, well, you guys are geeks. And I say geek with a very affectionate approach. I have 1 million geek, viewers, and the word we use, the boring word we use is enthusiast. Okay. So you've got track fans, and they're going to come to this place and they go, yeah, this is totally cool. And a lot of them are going to come next year for the first time. So I'm going to start with Marquesa. And so putting you on the pressure
challenge.
It's okay, I have one, so cool. So no one else can take mine. So this is the stairwell of the tower, I will say, because that is something that you're going to go straight to the elevator for that 10-story thing, but the stairwell of the tower is so cool because every layer of every wall has some graphic and a story to it. Even like the signage of as you enter each floor has something to it. And so I think we don't even really have photos of that space because it's so small. And the stairs are like a bright, kind of that Volt neon kind of green yellow color. And so it's kind of a shock, and it's cool just to kind of look all the way up because you can see from the bottom all the way to the top.
Neat. Okay.
And so I think that is something that people won't necessarily go into, and that it's pretty special. Take your time kind of going up there to the observation.
I will do that. That'll be on the list. Thank you.
So if I can,
mine was the top of the tower.
I want to just add to Marquesa's thing, because if you look up there stairwell directly to the top, we put an O at the roof that you only see during that, that whole process. Yeah. And then to Marquesa's point too, we named every floor there's 9 gold medal winners in University of Oregon history. So each floor has Otis Davis as the first gold medal winner. So he's at floor number 1, and you'll see his mural there. You'll see the 1960 Rome silhouette of the stadium, and that whole mural ribbons all the way up with each floor going to a different athlete that's won a gold medal. So that goes all the way up, and it just creates, and then at the top of the Bowerman Tower, we've got a big, Prefontaine and, Bill Bowerman mural within the volume of the stairwell. So yeah, it's a good point, Marquesa. There's just a lot of hidden details within all of that that make it really fun. But you wouldn't think a stairwell is amazing, fantastic, but it's really cool.
Whitney, what do you have something that we should take a look at?
Yeah, this is a really tough question. But I'd say, one of my favorite sort of memories of kind of when we were able to participate in the unveiling of the stadium to the Oregon athletes. And a spot that I would tell you to go back to is the overlook in the practice area, where you can sort of have visuals to the throwing and jumping pit, but then you also get visuals down the 140-meter, sprint track. That space, architecturally is so dynamic. One thing that we did maybe notice with the light fixtures was taking the lines of the track and, sort of placing those on the ceiling and the custom light fixtures. But I think to see it with athletes and to be there, we haven't been there on a practice day, but I would love to go back on a day where you have, athletes in all of these different events practicing all at the same time, and so much energy there. So yeah,
Cool.
That would be the spot that I would tell you to go back to.
All right, I will check that out. All right, Jeff, you're next.
Okay, well, I was going to say the top of the tower. So when you go through the stair and see all the amazing stuff, I do think the observation deck, there's something magical up there, because you're surrounded in the stadium with all this energy and these connections. You get up to the top of the tower, and it's almost like you're in a different world, and you have this moment of reflection up there of kind of the site and then the broader Eugene context. But that's tied to Marquesa's answer, so I'll give you another one. And this is a little nerdy and it's a very small detail, but it's super symbolic. And I think it was Todd's idea. In some or if not all, correct me, Todd and team, entries from underneath going out to the track, there's a small square of the existing track surface on the wall. And it's meant to be a place where an athlete can, actually touch and feel, the historic Hayward track surface before they go into the new and the future. And I just think that moment it's such a simple thing, but it's so powerful. And every time I see it, I'm just blown away by it. It's got the lane number on it. It's got all the, dirt, and it wasn't cleaned up. It's just a nice frame, sort of a piece of the old track for everyone to just, have that moment before they go out to the new. So something to look for.
Yeah.
Jeff,
and actually, Todd, well, correction, that was Robert Johnson's idea. So I would like to take credit for that, but it's Robert Johnson's. And that whole notion that he said is, because we were working on some type of, ceremonial, like you're walking into the track, you're walking into the arena. So I know, football stadiums, they have the bang board, or some other stadiums, they have special things that they do. So we were looking for something to do that. And that's how we came up with this whole idea that there's, so you go and each one of these, areas, there's 4 different areas that come out from the lower side onto the track. So we took those lane numbers. So number 1 was lane 1 in the old track. And the idea that Robert said is you come up, you touch a little of that, you get a little Hayward magic on you, the old Hayward magic where you walk out onto the track. So yeah, it's I was going to say, it's just one of those symbolic sort of moments that I think is really cool. Mm-hmm. This is a really, really tough question. That's really not a fair question because there's so many little hidden details and so many things that are really cool. But where I'm going to go to, and I think Marquesa alluded to this too, is when we got to unveil Hayward, not to fans or not to anybody else, but to the athletes, and just basically show them something that they'd never seen before and basically welcomed them home. And, their giddiness and their excitement of, walking through this new home that they had was absolutely just one of those things that just made you feel giddy just being part of it. But there was one moment where they actually just felt like they couldn't believe their eyes, or they couldn't believe their moments when we showed them their barber shop. And they have a barber shop, a manicure station, and a pedicure station, and a whole row of nail polishes. And I just think that they just couldn't believe that this was even part of it too. And the barber shop's called Razor Bill's, so it has a little bit of a Bill Hayward to it too. And the whole feeling of it feels like a neighborhood barber shop that would be in a city. And so you have this, gold inlaid tile that says Razor Bills as you walk through, old pictures all over the walls, TV screens, and just, sort of cool sort of paraphernalia that again, one of our partners, Gallagher Design, just did an awesome job creating that environment. But it just feels like you're in this very modern stadium and you have something that feels like hometown, like your neighborhood barbershop. And it was just so fun to see the athletes so excited about, something like that they could have experience every day.
Well, I need to thank Todd Van Horne, who is a creative director, and Marquesa Figueroa Whitney Ranson, and Jeff Yrazabal from SRG Architect Group. This was a lot of fun, and you helped us nerd out, geek out, worship Hayward Field. But you guys, you should be really proud. I've been to every Olympic trials since 1980. Really enjoyed this one, and it's a beautiful facility. And it is, as you said, it's a legacy to our sport and to Oregon. And you've done, I think, all of the groups proud. So thank you for your time. I'm going to probably send you a note and ask you to think about, I'll give you prepare. I want to do a geek version. So we're going to ask you to come up with 3 or 4 things, and you can take some time with it to tell us that we wouldn't think about, because I'm fascinated with what the little extra things that you put in. And I will go and look at each one that you suggested. But thank you again for doing this today. This is Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. We've been discussing the new Hayward Field. Thank you very much for enjoying Socialing the Distance. And it's just been, I really appreciate your time today. Thanks to Todd Van Horne, Marquesa Figueroa, Whitney Ranson, Jeff Yrazabal. Is that correct, Jeff? Am I getting close?
Good.
All right. Thank you. Well, hello, sports fans. Larry Eder, RunBlogRun. This is your favorite program, Socialing the Distance. And we had a real treat today. We had the group behind the design and building of Hayward Field, the new Hayward Field, which I have called most recently the Notre Dame of track and field, the sanctuary to our sport. It's not the old Hayward. I don't really even think you can compare it, but it's a tremendous legacy for Oregon track and field, but also for American track and field. The people we talked to, and this is the epilogue, and my apologies for not announcing that earlier. This is the Larry One-Stop Shop, as you know. The folks that we talked to included Todd Van Horne. He's recently retired from Nike. He was a creative director on the project. And there was Marquesa Figueroa, Whitney Ranson, and Jeff Yrazabal from the SRG partnership. I think I had miscalled it the SRG Architect Group, and my sincere apologies. But the SRG partnership did a tremendous job. To me, the attention to detail, everything from the using street artists in the bathrooms to show some of the heroes of Oregon. And again, what this is about is this is a track-only stadium that celebrates the history of Oregon, that also combines form and function. And what I mean by that is there's an 140-meter track around the inside of the facility. There is a pole vault training area where you could actually jump the world record. It's that high. There's indoor throw facilities. There's a barber shop, a manicure and a pedicure place. I think it was called Razor Bill. But the attention to detail was really fun. And then we were told about some cool things in the tower, like what you see at the very, very top. When you look up, you see a big O. There's elevators there, obviously, but if you go up the stairs, there's some really cool things. So what I asked them to do, each one of them, I asked Todd, Marquesa, Whitney, and Jeff to give me one of their favorite things about Hayward Field, and they complied. And we're going to try to get them on again to do some fun things, because I wanted to get through some of the beginning things. I thought the facility did a great job on what I see as its real shakedown cruise, which was the Olympic trials, and especially much more difficult due to the pandemic. But I also think that, and I was curious about this, there are things that people really liked and things that thought could be fixed. And Jeff told me they had a crew in there asking people, what don't you like, or what do you think should be done? Probably the coolest thing I thought was Jeff thought that someone told him about adding a USB port to all the chairs so people could plug in their phones and stuff, because as you know, people don't go anywhere without their phones or their iPad, right? Or iPhones or UPad, not you. Got them. Okay, iPhones and iPad, not UPad, iPad. I don't know where my brain's at sometimes. It's only the one cup of coffee. But without your telephones and your little, iPad assistant or whatever the hell you want to call it. But I think the facility, the track is fantastic. And what's really cool is the fans are very close to the track. It almost gives you an indoor facility feel. And I just think they did a great job. So we wanted to get a chance to talk to them. And we got to talk to Todd Van Horne, who is a creative director, Marquesa Figueroa Whitney Ranson, and Jeff Yrazabal from the SRG partnership. These are the people that are behind a stadium that should be there for the next 100 years. It was funded by Phil and Penny Knight and 50 anonymous supporters. And we understand to the tune of about $275 million. It's a grand facility. I encourage you to be there next year for the U.S. Championships and the World Championships in Eugene, which should be tremendous next July. This is Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. This is Socialing the Distance, and this is our epilogue on the building that is the new Hayward Field. Stay safe.